easy out because they have a talent problem. One of the worst records in the league. But as the reigning champs, the Lakers expected to get every team's best shot. Motor City Madhouse. I can hardly get next to myself. Don't get next to LeBron James, man. He's been hotter than a fox in a forest fire, averaging 33, shooting over 50% from the field and from three over his last 4 games, and he came out of burning. The deep three, the drive to the hole, in the corner, another 3, 5 for 5, 14 points in the first quarter for LeBron James. Now, LeBron has got it going on. LeBron James working in the paint right there. LeBron James started hot and went hot. He had 22. He had 20 in the first half, but he finished with just 22. Went 1 for 12 in the second half. There's Anthony Davis, aforementioned and out. Lakers were up 2 at the half. Wesley Matthews, Blake Griffin, the deep 2 over him. And then Jeremy Grant to that's a Lillard 3 right there. And then we go to the fourth quarter. The Pistons up 1, and this starts a 16-0 run for Detroit. It's Griffin over Kyle Kuzma. Can the Lakers come back? Remember, they lost in Philly, their first road loss. Legs are getting tired. Told you James had nothing after the first half. Harrell couldn't get it to go. And Wayne Ellington. Hello. Wayne's World. Party time. There you go. Excellent. Excellent. And then let's Griffin to Grant. Lakers score only 14 in the final quarter, and the Pistons win 107-92. LeBron James afterwards.
Extra cautious during the pandemic. You know, an outbreak can move a team from a top seed to a 6th, 7th seed, something like that. And I just wondered, as you get to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th city on a trip, does that mental toll, does that accumulate? Does that get more difficult? How do you kind of keep the team on focus there throughout this unique situation?
Because there's still work to be done. I mean, we still, there's games we play, be work to be done. We got to continue to get better. And you can't really, get your mind into the grasp of how many days you've been on the road or whatever the case may be. Every team does it. Every team hits a long road trip. And professionals, we got to keep our minds fresh, keep our bodies fresh as much as we can to go out there and put together a complete 48-minute game, or as close to 48 minutes. So, obviously, we haven't done it the last couple of games. And we just got to be better on Saturday.
Just basketball-wise, did you notice anything about that second half, the biggest thing that stood out?
I think Detroit played extremely well tonight, and then we didn't play well. We didn't play well at all. Our legs got to us a little bit on the second night with back-to-back. That was the result of it.
Dan?
Hey, LeBron. You mentioned the legs. I mean, you got off to such a hot start in this game. Is that kind of what you think turned for you tonight?
No, I don't think so. I think early on I got it going. And then I still, at the end of the day, still got to get my teammates involved. Even with my scoring early, we didn't have many, assists and things of that nature. So I want to try to implement my guys, get my guys involved in the game. And I definitely missed some shots that I know I'm accustomed to making, but it had nothing to do with my legs.
Hey, Frank has talked a couple times about the depth of his team and how tricky it is to kind of find minutes for everybody who deserves them, and how it can kind of force some maybe non-conventional lineups. How much do you feel that? How much do you feel that you personally are still adjusting to some of the different groups out there, and where would you kind of like to be soon in that development?
I'm definitely, and we're definitely all adjusting to playing with different lineups, and logging minutes with lineups that, one game you might not log with, or could be a few games in a row. So, it's kind of learning on the fly, and I think we're all learning on the fly because of the lack of practice time. With this season, it's very difficult to kind of, get those practice minutes on the floor and know what works and what does not work. Just very strange with that. A lot of our games are also just like, big practices for us too. We have to learn on the fly, and coach is still learning different lineups and seeing what combinations work, what combinations don't work. And, myself, I'm out there playing with certain lineups I don't play with, certain lineups I do play with. So I log a lot of minutes with, guys that, may not have logged with, in a couple games. But like I said, it's all a learning experience and all of us trying to figure it out.
Dave?
Ron, how do you get comfortable and stay patient with that challenge or that circumstance of needing the games to be the practices because the reality of the schedule doesn't allow for actual practices?
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Dan, I think you have a follow-up.
Yeah, LeBron, you guys have Boston on Saturday, and that's kind of one of those rivalries in sports that transcends even the country. I guess, what's it like to be a part of something so big like Lakers Celtics?
It's pretty cool. Just knowing the history, Lakers Celtics across, throughout the course of, this league and what it means to this league, the history of this league. And just seeing some of the biggest games, some of the biggest rivalries, some of the best players that ever played this game to be a part of this rivalry was a pretty cool thing, just learning the history. It's not like I didn't personally grow up watching them. Obviously I was, a little bit too young in the 80s, and then they had, rekindled a little bit in the 2000, late 2000s when, Kobe and them guys were going against KG and those guys. But, it's pretty cool. And right now it's different. Without the Boston fans and without the Laker faithful, it's not the same. It won't feel the same on Saturday. It's going to feel great to play another game and play against a very good team, but it won't have that rivalry feel. Just, the fans are so much a part of that rivalry, if you could just imagine, and just go back and watch those games, how key the fans were in all the battles over the course of the years.
All right, we'll wrap with Rachel.
Ron, when is it in the cycle of games and off days and stuff in a road trip that you feel the most tired? Because we talked a lot about how short the off season was, how much energy it was going to take, and you get to the beginning of the season and there's kind of a burst of we're starting, but you're on a long road trip like this. When is it that you feel it? Is it right after games? Is it on the off days?
I don't get tired. I don't feel tired. I get my sleep, I get my rest. But I have a lot of energy. I don't get tired, and I don't even. My mindset never gets to a point where it's like, okay, this is a long road trip. I'm exhausted. Or I'm tired. I don't even think about that. When we have our games, I'm ready to go. When we're not playing, I have an opportunity to rest and get my body back right, get my mind refreshed. But I don't get tired.
What are you doing on this road trip since you can't go out to dinner and maybe hang with guys the way you normally would? What are you doing to keep yourself occupied?
Watching a couple shows on Netflix and on Showtime, and drinking some wine. It's perfect.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
And just seemed like you ran out of gas. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I don't know if we ran out of gas. I mean, we just didn't have a great rhythm that second half in any way. We'll go back and look at the tape and see where we went wrong. We didn't have as much of a defensive disposition, and that forced us to not get out in the open court, and playing without Anthony. We're just looking to find a rhythm with combinations that are not used to being out there, and we just didn't find it. We've been pretty good on the road, but tonight was definitely not our night.
Are there certain things that you're looking for aside from LeBron initiating on offense that either didn't come tonight and that you think still need to come along, especially if AD's out?
No, for sure. We have plenty of firepower to win this basketball game tonight. I got to do a better job putting guys in the right spots to be successful and to use our depth. But we just didn't get going in that second half.
Bill?
Hey, Frank, you go back 24 hours and you guys had this, great spirited fourth quarter in a close game where you were able to really summon something late. How do you account for the same team 24 hours later, not being able to kind of draw on the same thing?
That's the NBA. I mean, that happens. We were different tonight than last night, obviously with, the guys we had in there. But one night's different than the next, and there's different energy in every game. I thought we started the game with good energy, but down the stretch we just lost rhythm.
Dave?
Frank, you thought your team would be a little edgy, a little angry about what occurred in Philadelphia. How do you respond to this one? You set out to not lose two.
Yeah, when you have nights like this in a long season, we'll be fine. We'll bounce back. Not happy. None of us are happy with how we played tonight, but we'll bounce back.
Dan?
Frank, you talked a lot about how you guys are going to get everybody's best shot a lot of times this season. Did you see that from Detroit? It seemed like they were really physically invested in the game, talking a lot and stuff like that. Did you feel like they were at a different intensity level maybe than you guys were?
I thought our intensity, I don't think it was an intensity thing. I think it was more of an execution thing, and then, like I said, the second half when the shot's not falling, you don't have a rhythm in your offense. Your focus wanes, and, you do credit Detroit. Detroit played a good basketball game, but certainly this is a game we should win.
Last question, Kyle.
Frank, you guys had a pretty good record, in games where AD didn't play or LeBron didn't play last year. I'm thinking of an OKC game where Kuz and Rondo kind of led you guys to a big win there. Do you feel like that part of your culture is still intact, or with a new group, do you feel like that will require just kind of building back, or do these things even carry over year to year?
I do. We have a team that can make up for a couple guys being out, and I think we'll be that way throughout the course of the year. But tonight, like I said, sometimes you just have some nights where you're off in a lot of ways, and that was us tonight.
What did the Sixers prove to you by beating LA?
Well, they proved to me that they could do it. They could possibly win it all if Ben Simmons would shoot jump shots. I think that's the glaring weakness in it all. The last play of the game, Max, essentially, they pulled the LeBron. Doc Rivers called a beautiful, beautiful play because they bring the ball up the court, and then Tobias Harris picks off Caruso, so Caruso has to ultimately guard him because LeBron was on Tobias Harris, okay? But you forced the switch, so you had Caruso on Tobias Harris, and then obviously Tobias Harris took him and sealed the deal with under 2 seconds left, and that's how they won this game because that's something that LeBron James usually does. He finds the mismatch, he takes advantage of it, either for himself or another player on his team, and that's what happened. But Doc Rivers, pulled that on him last night. Having said all of that, I just think that when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, you look at this kid Maxey, you look at Tobias Harris, the way that he's been balling, you look at Joel Embiid, the way that he's been balling, along with Seth Curry, who I can't say enough about because he's really, really ascending before our very eyes. What it comes down to is Ben Simmons being on the court and being a threat offensively. If he's a threat, if he's somebody that you have to pay attention to, it's going to free up shot opportunities for other people, including Embiid, along with others. If you don't do that, you essentially get to play 4-on-5 basketball against the Philadelphia 76ers, particularly with Ben Simmons not being a perimeter threat. We know he could take the ball to the hole and finish at the basket and score there. But when you can score from the perimeter, it opens the floodgates for you offensively. And that's what Ben Simmons needs to do. I don't care what anybody says. Speaking to Daryl Morey last night, he acknowledged it to some degree. Obviously, Doc Rivers thinks otherwise. You have to, in my estimation, be able to shoot jump shots in order for you to win the chip if you are the Philadelphia 76ers. You need Ben Simmons to be able to be some kind of threat to keep opposing defenses honest. If not, it will come back to bite you when it really counts. Not during the regular season, not during the early rounds of the playoffs, but eventually it will come back to bite you against the elite teams.
First of all, you're right about Ben Simmons. If Ben Simmons could really shoot, Stephen A., he'd be an MVP candidate for real.
Easy.
And I might not be taking the Nets to get out of the East. That's number one. Number two, you're right about Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, look, why is Rondo a playoff player? Why is there playoff Rondo? Regular season, boy, he's not that good anymore. Playoffs, oh my God, he's an all-star. Because playoffs is coach's time. right? The guys who know all the plays. There's more intensity. There's more kind of designed plays. The guys who know all the plays have an advantage, like a brilliant guy like Rondo, who knows everything. He's like a coach on the floor. Doc Rivers has like the play out of the timeout that gets you the bucket. Of course, you need the horses, but the coach that can design the play that gets you the bucket out of the timeout, that team has a big advantage in the playoffs. The Sixers have that guy now. So you're right about that too, but that's not what I peel from the game. What I peel from the game is this. What is this league going to do with Joel Embiid? In an era that absolutely goes against a guy of Embiid's size, right? And because he also has classic back-to-the-basket center skills. Those guys are almost never the best player in the game or one of the best players in the game or really in the MVP conversation. When was the last time it happened? But Embiid, because he has those skills and also all kinds of other skills, he's still my MVP after that game. He was giving AD the business. Anthony Davis the business. When you looked on paper heading into this game, Anthony Davis and Marc Gasol, well, you can't really ask for more going up against Embiid, and they couldn't do anything with him. So what did they do? LeBron James, who was not a dirty player, had a dirty play. Both hands on Embiid in the air, pushed him. And by the way, Marc Gasol behind him didn't give him anywhere to land and actually gave him a little tap in the back. Embiid came down so hard, Stephen A., that when they replayed it with sound, it was hard to watch and listen to. That's a big man coming down a long way on a bad back. And what happened after that play? The Lakers started making a furious comeback. Embiid was not the same. He had that one nice move on AD where he scored, but he really wasn't the same. They kind of took him out of the game with that play. In the end, though, what I take away is Embiid so far is the MVP, and the Sixers won the game. Yes, they were at home. Yes, they had a big lead that got whittled away once it looked like Embiid's back really started to stiffen, right, to tighten. But they still managed to hang on in a game where when you were watching, let's admit it, it was like, Lakers going to win this. Well, they're coming back. They're showing them what a champion is. And the Sixers held on.
Well, first of all, I've seen worse in terms of the fall. I've seen worse. It was kind of nasty, but I've seen much, much worse. Let's put that in perspective, number one. Number two, however, having said all of that, I would understand your sensitivity to such issues, Max. Anybody that has a back issue, you are definitely sensitive to those things. I definitely understand that, Max. I understand where you're coming from and you know, Mr. Elliptical. I understand. But in the end, here's what the deal is, Max. When you sit up there and you look at the Los Angeles Lakers, you look at, Joel Embiid, here's what I would say to buffer your argument about him. Right now, Max, when are you and I going to sit here? Because we don't have time today with this Deshaun Watson news, but when are you and I going to sit here, rhetorically speaking, and have a discussion about whether or not Joel Embiid is going to overtake Giannis? Because I got news for you. Giannis in an open court is a monster. We get that. 6'11", with his wingspan, his agility, his athleticism, his hops, all of that is true. But he's not the true big that Joel Embiid is. And now that Doc Rivers got him doing what I bet